Welcome to the Total Soccer Show weekend review. After the international break, European domestic soccer came back. And in Spain, Barcelona are certainly on track. It's 9 wins in a row for the Catalan heavyweights. Can Real Madrid catch them on the final straight? In Germany, Bayern are on course to break the Harry Kane curse. In Italy, it's getting better for Inter, but for AC Milan, it's getting worse. The FA Cup is now down to its final 4, and reigning champion Marcus Rashford is in the goals once more. And in MLS, Miami topped their division as Messi returned from the bench and scored with precision. My name's Ryan Bailey. Power trio today on the Total Soccer Show. Taylor Rockwell's here. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. How are you doing this fine Monday morning, my friend?
It's a very fine Monday morning. It's pollen season here in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Taylor, are your cars covered in a green film of pollen also?
Yes, sir. As is the water out back, which once again features frogs going about their business. It's been an interesting spring over here at the Rockwell Estate, Ryan Bailey.
That's your Olympic swimming pool you're referring to, the water
Yes,
out
of
back,
course,
right?
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, not the swamp behind the house. The Olympic swimming pool. Indeed.
You need to get the roof built on that.
We really do. We've been slacking. It was a busy weekend.
That's right. That's fair enough. It's been busy. Graham Rudden's here also. Hello, Graham. How are you?
I'm very well. Ryan Bailey, are you going to ask me as well whether I've got a roof over my outdoor pool? No?
We know that you do.
Yeah.
There's an outdoor pool at the gym that I use, and I've never seen anyone in it. Besides, like, the Olympic swimmers, like the really keen ones. It's a bit of a waste of money, I think, in Glasgow.
Yeah, that's a shame. The same brand of gym that you go to, there's one next to my mum's house, and people are in that all the time, but I suppose it's a slightly warmer climate. Slightly, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be warmer climate because we know about southern softies, so it can't be that they're harder than the people up here, of course.
There's the guy who won't go in the pool. Okay, very good, Graham. Pollen season, I presume, is not upon you in Glasgow, right?
No. Are there flowers in Scotland? Like thistles? Do thistles have pollen? I'm not quite so sure.
Wonderful stuff. All right. Weather conversation out the way early. Woo. Very good indeed. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is the best way to support this endeavour, by the way. We've got bonus episodes of TSS, including, but not limited to, a weekend extra review. All the weekend we can't squeeze into this show is going right there. Much more there too, including bonus video content and access to our Discord server. All the cool kids are hanging out there. Join us there, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Please and a thank you. And as a reminder, we're on the YouTubes. You can see our faces there. You can see Graham in his beautiful, I'm going to say, Mexican kit.
Yep, Santos Laguna. You guessed before we started recording, Ryan, that it was a Real Betis shirt. That would have been a better idea, considering that they won the Grand Derby over the weekend, but I'll wear that in a future episode.
Yes, indeed. That and much more La Liga action coming up later on in the show. Hey, Taylor, should we start off with the Football Association Cup, the longest-running domestic competition in soccer history?
Yes, I think so. I'm still confused about what Graham just said about his shirt collection, but I'm happy to do FA Cup instead if you so choose.
Hang on, what did he say? I wasn't listening to Graham as usual.
So it wasn't that Graham was like, I don't have a Betis shirt to wear, so I wore something similar to honor them. It was that he does have one, but didn't break it out for the show, and now I'm confused. Is it a protest lack of shirt?
No.
Are you saving it for their next big win?
It is merely coincidental that I am wearing a shirt that is reminiscent of a Betis shirt. Ryan asked, first of all, when I logged on, is that a Betis shirt? I thought to myself, that would have been a better idea because I've got 2 Real Betis shirts and they got a big win over the weekend, which we might touch upon on this episode.
You've got 2 of them. Of course you do.
They're Hubble. They're made by Hubble.
I was ready for you to be like, no, I don't have any. I need to get one. And when it was, no, I could have broken out any number of them, but I went for this one instead. I had some questions, which you've now answered. Thank you, Graham.
All right. Well, I hope the Sevilla Ultras don't tune out at this point because there might be some bias coming later
Guaranteed, Graham has a Sevilla shirt as well.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
There you go.
I drew my one.
Attaboy. Attaboy, Graham. Well done. All right, let's start in the slightly less glamorous climes of Bournemouth, shall we, for the FA Cup quarterfinals. Bournemouth 1, Man City 2. This is, Taylor, the location where I believe Man City lost their first game of the season back in November, and they've reversed the scoreline from their game. Kepa saving an Erling Haaland penalty. Noel Gallagher didn't look happy about that one, did he? Nope.
He didn't, nor did the woman with her small child on her lap filming the penalty, knowing it was going to be a goal, and then I believe mouthing quietly a few obscenities while putting the phone down and consoling her then very sad child. But it all went okay for Man City in the end, and I think that is very much to their credit, because Bournemouth were excellent in the first half, Admittedly, a fun insight into how I watch soccer these days. I watched the first half, then took a 45-minute break to deal with my toddler who was having a breakdown in the middle of the street. Face down in the street is a way to lay if you are a child. But after resolving that, I came back thinking, here we go, more of the same. And it was as though that game itself had, instead of a 15-minute halftime, an hour-long halftime in which Pep reconfigured everything, because City came out and were absolutely excellent in the second half in a way that they absolutely were not in the first. And I, as a neutral / Man United supporter, I think was definitely pulling for Bournemouth in this one, because you want the underdog, because Tyler Adams as well, and because it's City. And so I really enjoyed that first half, but I thought the way City were able to fight back some of the changes Pep made, and then just a kind of commitment to doing what they do, saw them get this result. So it's a credit to them and a little bit of credit to Bournemouth for the way this played out.
Yeah, I was absolutely pulling for Bournemouth, because we would have had they got through this game, we would have had a semi-final field of Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace. Two of those teams have never won the FA Cup, and the other two haven't won it this century, but unfortunately we got City again. They've made the semi-final 7 years in a row. Go on, Taylor.
Graham, what is your line for this? Because I remember the one I always remember is when Portsmouth won the FA Cup. And that was the one where everybody was like, finally, it's not one of the big clubs. It's not one of the big clubs in the final. And then I think that's the lowest TV ratings. Nobody was really that excited about it. So there is a line between plucky young upstarts, but then also, are we sure we want to watch them play in a final?
Yeah, well, we had this during the World Cup, right, when Morocco made that incredible run, and then it all dawned on us on the day of the semi-finals, we've got to watch Morocco in the semi-finals. I think it's fine for a competition like the FA Cup. The FA Cup is just good fun. It's good-natured fun. We don't care that much about it, really, in the grand scheme of things. If it's the Champions League or the World Cup, Ryan looks absolutely shocked by that. Is that some sort of dagger to your English heart there, disparaging the FA Cup?
I think a small part of me just died with you saying that, but go on, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, it's still fun that we've got, Aston Villa, Forest and Crystal Palace through to the semi-finals. Taylor, you mentioned the changes that Man City made. Mm-hmm. The turning point, one change in particular was a turning point, and that was Nico Riley coming on for the start of the second half. He is a really interesting player. He's played a handful of games for Man City now. He is actually an attacking midfielder by trade, but has been used at left back this season. I think he came on in a game, or started a game, against Salford City as well earlier in the FA Cup. He was very good in that game. Of course, it was against Salford City. I think Paul Scholes was playing in that game, such as the level of Salford City. Very different to do it against Bournemouth. And he was incredible. Within minutes, he's assisted Erling Haaland for the equaliser with that run down the left side. And that was something that Man City were lacking in the first half. Yes, they had lots of the ball. They actually created a few opportunities. Erling Haaland didn't have his shooting boots on in this game until that moment early in the second half. But they just lacked that outlet, that dynamism, that funnel into the final third. And he comes on, and all of a sudden Man City have that. He gets the second assist for the Marmoush goal as well. So, a bit of directness from Nico O'Reilly, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see more of him in that position between now and the end of the season.
Yeah. And of course, Kusanov, the sacrificial whipping boy, as always, when things don't go well, he is allowed to go on his merry way so that somebody else can come on and play more direct and be more attacking and end up having a result. So another smart change, even if I feel slightly bad for Kusanov and the situation he is in.
Yeah, Taylor, you mentioned sort of the turnaround in fortune for City in this game. Pep Guardiola said that they've recovered some of their missing heart and soul. So do we think this is kind of a long-term inflection turning point for the team? This is the last competition they've got left to win, basically, isn't it, this FA Cup? And they've got a couple of games to do so. They've reached the last two finals, and they've been in the last billion semis, as Graham mentioned there as well. Do we think this is kind of... Was there enough from this game to suggest, it's going to be okay from here, guys?
Graham's sound suggests no, as the camera cuts to him. I appreciate that. I don't know, to be honest, because I find that quote slightly alarming. It's like, did they do a Raiders of the Lost Ark Last Crusade visit? Is that how they got their heart and soul back? Because otherwise it was basically just they made some changes they probably should have started with and were more direct and a bit more blunt, and I think in that way caused some problems to Bournemouth. That said, I do think if you feel like the kind of season is slipping away, and if they had lost this game, not only are they out of the FA Cup, but it's another sort of run of poor performances, there's an argument there that, then the season is kind of done from a true competition standpoint. You never know what can happen, but it feels like it would be a bridge too far for them in the Premier League. And so I think that they are able to turn it around, that they are able to find some kind of fighting spirit, and that some of that fighting spirit comes from changes from the bench. You get Nico O'Reilly, as Graham already mentioned, who gets the 2 assists. You get Omar Marmoush coming on the 61st, and he ends up getting a goal. James McAtee comes on and gets a yellow card. That's less of an influential thing. Grealish in there as well. I think you get some proactive changes, you get some fighting spirit, and you get a reminder for Manchester City that there are other players who can come on and make a difference and kind of push the rest of the team a bit further down the pitch. So yeah, I think we may end up seeing City make the final at the very least, and I think potentially win the FA Cup. And I don't think that is a successful season in their books, but it's not as bad as it could have been for sure.
Graham, your skepticism?
It's better that they got a response in this game than not, right? So I can see where Pep is coming from. I still look at this team, and Taylor, I know you're not disagreeing with this, but I look at this team and still see a huge amount of work for them to do, where players like Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish comes on in this game. I don't really see what he offers City at this point. There are still questions over Erling Haaland, maybe not so much in this game because he does have opportunities, but how he is integrated to the rest of the team, particularly if it's Marmoush around him. Phil Foden is a really confusing player at the moment. There was a moment in this game where I think it was quite early in the second half where all of a sudden he burst through midfield and dribbled past a few players and had a shot. And I went, wow, Phil Foden's back. Where's that player been all season? So there's still a question mark over a number of these players.
Graham, did you see the reverse angle of that from behind the City goal when he has that shot? Because I thought that was really interesting as well. So Foden makes that driving run. If we're talking about the same one, and I think we are, he sort of feints to the right, cuts diagonally to the left, and has the shot that is saved. Erling Haaland had made a sprinting run out to the right, theoretically to take a defender with him and open up space, but the defender doesn't go. So Haaland is now wide open, and if Foden plays that ball, especially if he plays it well, Haaland can just run on and hit that kind of first-time smash. He doesn't hit that pass, and from the reverse angle, he kind of has the, shot saved, oh well. And the rest of the team is screaming at Phil Foden to have passed it to Erling Haaland. And there is a lot of, I think, antipathy for that decision in that moment. So even there, when he has a moment of an electrifying run and he creates something from nothing, it still feels like there's a little bit of infighting and a little bit of frustration for how they are meant to attack as a unit.
Yeah, and I think Tyler Adams was feeling frustrated at the end of this game because he absolutely cleans out Jack Grealish for a booking late in the game.
Yeah,
and then got the, I'm sure he got the Pep Guardiola treatment at the end. ITV cut away for a commercial just at the wrong time, but Pep Guardiola had him, gripped his face. I don't know whether he was giving him the hairdryer treatment for the tackle on Grealish or whether he was giving them the Nathan Redmond treatment and saying he wants to sign him for Man City next season. But yeah, he had a game.
Can we talk about Tyler Adams for a moment since you brought him up? Did you say no?
No, I said go on.
You said no. I was like, okay, all right. Graham overruled. Graham, did he have a good game? Because I obviously have a noticeable amount of Tyler Adams love, and I thought he had moments where he was very, very good, certainly on the defensive side. He has the one where he has, in the first half, where he has a block of, I think it's a Kustanov shot that he then chases down 40 yards, and there's a really weird spin on the ball, and he's still kind of hits a jumping volley through ball that I found really impressive, and he had some good attacking moments. He had a lot of good defensive moments, but he also concedes the penalty, which I think is a bit harsh. That's definitely ball to hand a couple years ago, but alas, that is no longer the way we rule that one. But I think has other sort of diving in challenges, concedes some free kicks he doesn't need to, turns the ball over a few times and gives City certainly some advantageous looks. I think he has one where he plays a back pass that ends up being a through ball for Erling Haaland to chip over the bar. It felt like a game of two extremes for Tyler Adams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we saw his limitations in the second half. In the first half, Man City are having a lot of the ball, but Bournemouth are quite happy to sit deep and then attack at open space, and that's where Tyler Adams is at his best, when he can be that barrier in front of the back four. I actually think he's improved a lot this season in playing forward from those deep positions. But once the game flips and Bournemouth are having to create something against Manchester City, that's maybe where you want a little bit more of a nimble central midfielder in that position, and that's where he wasn't really able to create much. And that's why I think we saw frustration at the end of the game, where he does absolutely clean out Jack Grealish in the last few minutes. So an interesting game for Tyler Adams, where we saw his good points and his bad points.
But he did just enough of the I didn't mean to do that, I hope you're okay, buddy, to not get the yellow card. And that's the sign of a consummate professional.
Did he not get the booking for that?
No, he did not.
Wow.
No,
okay.
he did not. Yep. Mm-hmm. I think
not
he
just
got
as well people like him.
I think he got a final warning talking to, which is an interesting thing to get in injury time. But I thought it was, as I said, a game of extremes for him. And I thought the same for Kepa, who I am like kind of constantly bemused by the fact that he is playing for Bournemouth when he was at one point the most expensive goalkeeper on the planet. But here we are, and I had a moment when I thought, is Kepa way better than we all thought? And maybe it was just a rough situation at Chelsea. He has the penalty save. He has some really good positional moments where he comes and claims balls that I thought were in traffic and kind of tricky. He makes a few, I would say, comfortable saves, but you're not kind of giving any oxygen to Man City at that point, and he's off his line a few times. I think he wins like multiple headers in this game when there are through balls played. And then there are two moments, one at the end of the first half, one at the second, when he goes to complete a 30-yard pass and puts it straight out of bounds. And in those moments, I thought, yes, the limitations of Kepa in distribution are fully on display in this moment.
Was it this competition where he refused to come off the field, or was that the League Cup?
I feel like that might have been the League Cup, but it's still seared into my mind, Ryan Bailey. And Maurizio Sarri's as well, I think.
Indeed, yeah.
I have one more peripheral question about this game, because I've spent an inordinate amount of time watching Ilkay Gundogan. I don't really know why, other than that he seemed to have a bee in his bonnet, I think is a British expression, maybe, possibly. But he was in a mood from the offset, and he, I think, gets called for a foul, then he doesn't draw a foul once or twice, and he just, for the next 15 minutes, is having words with the official every single time the ball is stopped. But because I started paying attention to him, I noticed how often he is dropping deep in defense and doing a really good job in 1v1 defending, but also in terms of organizing the defense. But then obviously he can play a ball forward, he can get a shot off, he can help facilitate attacking play, and he can scream at Phil Foden when Foden shoots instead of passing. We had this question a long time ago about which player, if you could make an entire 11 of one player, who would it be? And I think back then my answer was Arturo Vidal. We may have answered it more recently, but I now submit that Ilkay Gundogan is the player that could play every position on a soccer pitch somewhat comfortably, and I would be okay with it. Thoughts?
It's him or Wes McKennie, right? Or John McGinn. That's the three.
Ooh. In that order, I might go Gundogan, McGinn, Weston.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay.
I feel bad about it. But
right now Gundogan or Pete Gundogan?
Probably Pete Gundogan. It wasn't lost on me that I think I picked Arturo Vidal when he was like 37 or 54. I forget how old he was at that point, and now I'm picking a maybe slightly past his prime Ilkay Gundogan, who is 33, 34, I think, himself.
I mean, Vidal is still playing. He plays for Colo Colo in the Chilean league. So
he's still existing. That's true.
He could still be your answer.
Very good. All right. Well, Manchester City have apparently got their groove back. They are into the semi-finals, as noted, against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest through after a 0-0 draw against Brighton, ended in penalties. Chris Wood and co taking penalties like Erling Haaland couldn't and getting through 4-3 on that one. Elsewhere, Crystal Palace with a 3-0 win over London rivals Fulham. Eze Sarton and Ketia with the goals there. Bit of a turnaround this game because Fulham seemed to be pretty much on top of it until they weren't. But Eze's goal, Graham, tasty.
Yeah, he was the main man for Palace in this game. That goal is an absolute laser into the bottom corner from outside the box after cutting inside. I think it looks even better because something I've noticed about the goal nets at Craven Cottage is Fulham have them really, really tight. And so I don't know why aesthetically, when it's right in the corner like that, it just makes that goal look even better. And then for the second goal, he goes on the outside. So the first goal, he comes inside. Second goal, he goes on the outside. Just a nightmare to defend against. And then he puts in a cross for Ismaila Sarr, who has now got 4 goals in his last 4 games. So even Sarr, he's getting up to speed for Crystal Palace. He's a very different sort of wide player to Michael Olise, who of course he replaced last summer, but he's direct, he's got pace, made that really nice run to the near post for his goal. So Crystal Palace are they're cooking at the moment. They are getting better as the season goes on. Of course, had a bit of a sluggish start to the season. They were the popular pick to be a surprise package in the Premier League this season. And because they had that bad start, they're maybe not quite as high in the table. I'll wave as well, Taylor. That was me. They're maybe not quite as high in the table as you would expect, but they are one of the form teams in the Premier League right now, and they are absolutely a threat to win this competition. I think for the first time in their history, they've never done it before.
Yeah, congrats to them. And they might be losing their manager, maybe, if a certain East German team comes and knock in, Taylor, possibly.
Yeah, seems the distinct possibility. We'll talk about Leipzig later on. They've sacked their manager, and it seems the betting odds and a lot of the reporting in Germany suggest Oliver Glasner is first, second, and third on their list, which makes me wonder if he wins the FA Cup with Crystal Palace, is that a sign of things to come, or is that a fitting note to end on, sign off on, to then go take over Leipzig? we'll have to keep an eye on it. But I enjoy a Premier League with Oliver Glasner in it, so I hope he remains.
All coaches keep their jobs after winning the FA Cup as of last year. That's the rule.
This is true. I forgot that's now official British law.
It is indeed. It is a covenant of the competition. All right, Crystal Palace will be facing Aston Villa in the semi-finals after their 3-0 win over Preston North End. The last Premier League team, non-Premier League team, is out of this competition. Marcus Rashford with the brace and Jacob Ramsey with the gold as well. Reigning FA Cup champ Marcus Rashford, Taylor, back in the goals, 4-month goal drought. He back.
I mean, this move has worked out very well for him. He is in the FA Cup semi-finals, in the Champions League quarter-finals, and Manchester United are still in the mud. And his renaissance continues. We should mention, I think these are his first goals, right? He's had a good number of assists. He's played well, but hasn't actually scored a goal. So a bit of a relief for him that he's now off the mark in that sense. And I thought he was really productive in this game with Luka Dean. I've spoken about this before in the show, where the left back that Unai Emery starts for Aston Villa tells you how Marcus Rashford is going to play in the attack, because when it's Ian Maatson, he likes to invert. It's then on Rashford to hold the width on the left side. When it's Luka Dean, he gets high and wide and Marcus Rashford can come inside. And in this game, he was playing on the shoulder of the last defender, which is the run he makes for the first goal, and it's a really nice finish. But yeah, Villa, they won this game in a 13-minute spell in the second half. Preston had a decent chance in the first half after an Emi Martinez flap, but other than that, Villa were really, really comfortable, albeit a little bit lethargic. It took them a while to find top gear, which I think is standard after an international break. But they've got options in the attack. We've spoken about them before. Rodgers and Ramsey and Luka Dean running down the line, and Asensio and Marcus Rashford. They're a good team.
There we are. The semis once more. Forest versus City, Palace versus Villa. One more thing to touch on before we leave England, Graham. The Newcastle celebrations. Yeah. An estimated 300,000 people in Newcastle city centre on Saturday to celebrate the club's first domestic trophy in 70 years. I was listening to British radio on Friday, and they were trailing this thing a lot. It seemed to be a big UK cultural moment, the fact that the whole of Newcastle turned out. I think I saw that the Newcastle Metro is only like a 300,000 population, and 300,000 people showed up.
Yeah, 300,000 people. It was the Geordie Glastonbury, I saw it described as. And I've also seen some people really sort of poo-poo it and say, oh, it's just the Carabao Cup. To those people, I say, get a grip. Like, let people celebrate wins and winning trophies, particularly when your club hasn't won a trophy for 17 years. So, great scenes, kind of verging on Philadelphia scenes at points, with fans up lampposts and on top of cars, but all largely seem to be good-natured. And Ant and Dec, of course, were there to interview Dan Burn. I think you could get both of them on top of each other and still not be the height of Dan Burn.
Wow. I thought for a second when you said Philadelphia, I thought you were talking about cheese. I was confused for a second.
Yeah, did you not see that's a Newcastle thing? They slather themselves in Philadelphia cheese and then climb up the lamppost. Yeah.
Yeah, and they cover the Shearer statue in cheese and they all sing Geordie songs.
Taylor looks very confused. I'm joking, Taylor. This is not a thing they do in Geordie land.
I know that. I'm wondering what condiment you could have said that I would be like, yeah, they might do that. Because cream cheese feels a little bit soft for the Northerners. I don't know what it would be if you
salt and vinegar,
hot sauce.
Like that.
Yes, vinegar. They slather themselves in vinegar. That's it. That's definitely the one. I do have one more England-related question, but it goes back to Nottingham Forest. If you all will forgive me. If Forest get past City, which seems possible, they're going to be hosting Man City. Last time they did that was earlier this month when they beat Man City. If Nottingham Forest win the FA Cup and remained in the Champions League places, is that the second biggest surprise of a season behind Leicester winning the title? Because I struggle to think of a team putting together more surprising of a result, and especially this Nottingham Forest team who were so poor last season. Graham has already said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even qualifying for the Champions League is the biggest surprise since Leicester City. The FA Cup would be nice, would be the icing on the cake, and would just kind of reinforce the idea that it's not a fluke. That Nottingham Forest, not only can they do it in the Premier League, they can do it in the Cup as well. They're just this good a team. So yes, is my answer to that.
I actually previewed Nottingham Forest in our Premier League previews this season. I'm pretty sure I said they finished top 4 and maybe get a trophy as well.
Yes, of course.
Don't go back and check, but I'm pretty sure that's what I said. Anyway,
I can't wait to go back and check and hear an obviously edited Ryan just insert himself. The audio levels are clearly very different, and it's just re-recording over the entire preview.
I think they will finish in the top 3. There we go. Very good. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go to Spain, we're going to go to Italy, we're going to go to Germany, and all the rest. Join us then. Total Soccer Show. Welcome back to the weekend review. We go to Spain, where Real Madrid had a 3-2 win over Leganes. This was a fun game, Graham, wasn't it? They went behind, did Madrid, in this one, but Mbappe with a brace and Bellingham getting in there and taking advantage of defenders who didn't want to move quick enough to get the ball out of their 6-yard box. Mbappe with a nice Panenka and a free kick routine in this one as well.
I found that Bellingham goal really fascinating because he's the only one who reads that the ball is going to bounce on top of the crossbar. And I'm like, man, this kid's got a sixth sense or something of where the ball's going to fall inside the box.
Or was it the rest of them going, let's not clear this?
Well, I mean, it was the rest of them being a little bit dumb, but Bellingham being a little bit smart with that finish. I mean, Real Madrid, they got away with one here because this was a really uneven, sloppy performance. It should be noted that for this game, Ancelotti rested Vinicius, Rodrigo and Valverde. All three were involved in World Cup qualifiers on Tuesday night, so they weren't back in training, I read, until the Friday. They didn't get back until the Thursday. They didn't get back in training until the Friday. So that might have been a factor in the performance. But the Real Madrid defence in this game was so unbelievably vulnerable to the counter. By the way, Leganes are a team fighting relegation in La Liga away to the Bernabeu against Real Madrid. So that was a bit of a surprise. Also a bit of a surprise given that Real Madrid started with 5 central midfielders in this game. So you would presume there would be some form of protection. But Leganes killed them in the areas behind the fullbacks. Lucas Vazquez struggling again. I think he is reaching the end of his time as a Real Madrid player. He's out of contract in the summer, I think.
He's only like 23, right?
Yes, yeah. He's the Jesse Lingard of La Liga.
Baby boy Lucas Vazquez,
yeah, exactly. But he's, he the second leg in his goal comes from him simply not winning his duel with Oscar Rodriguez. And then the first goal is from Leganes attacking in behind Fran Garcia, who's generally been pretty good for Real Madrid this season. And Real Madrid have already conceded more goals in the league this season than they did in the entirety of last season. There's still 9 games to go this season, so that says something. And there is a weird atmosphere around Real Madrid at the moment. Boos at half-time when they were behind, which is not unsurprising given what that stadium is like. But then also at full-time when they had turned it around, and there's speculation around Carlo Ancelotti. He's answering a lot of questions about his future, particularly now that the Brazil job is vacant, and he's been strongly linked with that in the past. Kind of feels like, and this is me editorialising a little bit, it does feel like fans are a bit fed up of the whole Real Madrid thing, of pulling out of the fire through sheer talent, which they continue to do. And look, it's better that they won this game than they didn't, of course. But I think Real Madrid fans are at the point now where they want a bit more of an identity, more of a clear playing style, because this team still doesn't have that. And there's strong speculation that Xabi Alonso is the guy that they want this summer. So it might be, to that note, it might be the perfect time for him to come into this team.
Have Madrid ever had a clear philosophy and strong playing style?
Yeah, the skyscrapers, where it's the 5 different skyscrapers, the 5 different players. What more do you need?
Got it.
I mean, Lopetegui tried for like 3 months.
How'd it go?
And then, not well. He didn't get a skyscraper.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sorry, Taylor, some of this, though, is like the lack of... I mean, I feel like I have to defend Ancelotti a little bit, because there is a lack of depth and a very imbalanced nature to this squad, with some of the attackers they have versus some of the center backs that they do not have, and some of the fullbacks they don't have on top of that, like Lucas Vazquez, for example. Yeah. It does feel like it's as threadbare as a good Real Madrid team can be, and so in that way, I feel like Ancelotti deserves some credit for that. For the way he keeps finding ways to get this team to perform, even if it is relying on individuals and penalties against teams that are fighting relegation. I still think it is somewhat of an achievement that is maybe overlooked because Real Madrid have been so good for so long.
And 2 players that they have lost that they were critical in the first half of the season was Dani Carvajal, who I think is still underrated in terms of how he's the Kyle Walker of this team, how he is the safety net. Going to be interesting to see how Trent does when he's asked to do that job, which is not something he traditionally does very well. And then the other player, who I believe is either out injured until the end of the season or is going to be back right before the end of the season, is Dani Ceballos. So I spoke about this earlier in the season, where Real Madrid just kind of forgot to replace Toni Kroos when he was their rhythm builder. He was one of their most important players. And then, thankfully, from their point of view, Ceballos grew into that role, but then he got an injury and he's out of this team. So they're a weird team where they do have depth in a lot of positions. That forward line is still fearsome. But then in really key positions like central midfield and the fullback areas, they're threadbare.
Indeed. All right, let's go to Barcelona, shall we? A 4-1 win over Girona in the Catalan derby there. Lewandowski with a brace. Barcelona 3 points clear at the top. This was Barcelona's 9th straight Liga win. They are undefeated in 2025, 17 wins and 3 draws. Just the 67 goals from 20 games, Graham, in that period. That's okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing about this Barcelona team. There are so many goals across that forward line in particular. I mean, Lamine Yamal is stealing souls out on the wing in every game that he plays. Lewandowski is poaching and finishing scraps in the box. His goal in this game, I actually can't remember if it's his first or second goal, but I think there's only one striker in the world that can score that goal where he kind of like flips himself acrobatically. It's a little bit messy inside the 6-yard box, but he puts it in the back of the net somehow. And then you've got Rafinha, who's obviously incredibly sharp with his shooting from really anywhere, but particularly 18 to 16 yards out. And then Barca bring on Ferran Torres and Frenkie de Jong in the second half, and both of them are striding forward and getting into space. So it feels like we say similar things about Barcelona every week, but they're just so exciting to watch right now. And it feels like they are peaking again at the right time. There was a little moment at the start of the year there where they lost their way. As you say, Ryan, they've got 6 wins in a row now, 19 goals in those 6 games. They've got Atleti in the Copa semi-finals midweek, so that will be another thriller given how those fixtures have been this season. And then finally, the other thing to point out about this win over Girona is this was actually their second game back after their international break. It was their second game in 4 days. They were made to play on Thursday night, which they weren't happy about. That was the rearranged game due to the death of the club doctor. A lot of the South American players either weren't back or had got back that morning of the game. So just very impressive that they were able to win both of these games so emphatically when they've been asked to play two so close together.
Yeah, I'm impressed they didn't squeeze in a quick game in Texas in between those 2 games as well.
No, do not tempt Joan Laporta.
All right, Atletico, the aforementioned Madrid with a 1-1 draw against Espanyol. They are down in third, 6 points behind Real and 9 points behind Barcelona with 9 games to go. The other game in Spain we need to mention, El Gran Derby, of course, the Seville derby, Real Betis and Sevilla. Betis with the 2-1 win. Look at Johnny Cardoso getting a banger equaliser for Betis in this one after they went 1-0 down. Wonderful stuff. Taylor, did you catch this one?
I caught all of Johnny's moments and then the extended highlights of this game. And between those two things, I've got stock up on Johnny. He is not a player that I've always been super excited about for the U.S. We've done whole episodes about why that might be the case. But I felt like this game we saw a lot of the stuff that Graham has talked about where like this team is going to be better against the ball, and so he can maybe influence the game better. It kind of plays into his skill set a bit more. That said, I thought his passing was pretty effective. I thought on both sides of the ball, I saw him turn under pressure in transition and still play forward, and I thought that was a positive sign of positive development. Obviously, the goal is a big part of that as well. It was a really strong performance, and then literally a really strong performance because he then also bodies some people, comes through pretty aggressively on some challenges, wins the ball, gets a little bit of the man. It's kind of the best combination you can get, and doesn't get any cards along the way either.
Yeah, he was good in this game, Taylor, and you're absolutely right. I've said in the past, Johnny is best against the ball, but Betis in this game, they were the protagonists. They had more of the ball. They were the ones playing on the front foot, and he contributed clearly with that equaliser, but in other ways as well. Betis as a whole right now, they're just a fun team to watch right now. You've got Isco and Anthony balling out. I saw Isco saying that they're going to start a crowdfunder to sign him permanently from Manchester United. They love Anthony. Like, it is remarkable how his career has turned around from one half of the season to the other just by changing clubs. He's running around after the game with this flag, like he's on top of the goalkeeper as well with the celebration. So yeah, he's become a bit of an icon for this team. Cucho scores what proves to be the winner in this game after a lovely little through ball by Isco. And then Betis have got depth to bring off the bench as well. They've got Cedric Bakambu, they've got Giovanni Lo Celso. So they're on a real run right now. I think they might run out of games in terms of qualifying for the Champions League, but they're in that equation. And I really like Real Betis. I've always had a soft spot for them because they've been in Sevilla's shadow for so long. But they're such a vibrant club. They've got that incredible atmosphere. And Manuel Pellegrini has a team that is really playing for him at the moment. They want to have the ball. They want to play in the front foot as they did in this game. And they've got genuine difference makers who are getting better and better as the season goes on. So yeah, they were deserved winners.
They are 6 points off the top 4. They're in 6th place at the moment. Am I right in thinking, Graham, that in Seville it's most there's more Betis fans in Seville, but Sevilla are the bigger
They're
club,
the regional team, yeah. They're like the Andalusian team. The other thing, and look, I don't know how much of this applies in the 21st century, right? But traditionally, Betis are the club of the working class, and Sevilla are maybe more middle to upper class. So I guess maybe I've always had a soft spot for them for that reason as well. I would love to go. I've never been to a Grand Derby. It's on my bucket list to go one day. Yeah. I've never been to the Villamarín either, but it looks like an incredible... they hadn't won this game since 2018, Betis. You could see how much it meant to them at full time that they finally ended that drought.
Also, in the world of soccer, not enough green kits. So I think any team that's playing in green and doing it well deserves special accolades.
Yeah, apart from Scottish ones, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that goes without saying.
Excellent.
They're too busy also being covered in vinegar to wear green kits, I think. It's a
Goes without saying. Yeah. All right. We head to Italy now, where Napoli got a 2-1 win over Milan. First half goals from Matteo Politano and Romelu Lukaku, earning Napoli that win. They stay within 3 points of leaders Inter at the top. Politano with the banger after, what was it, a few seconds after a minute?
The commentator was saying, I think it was Chris Whitty, was saying that is only the second time in their Serie A history Napoli have scored in the first 2 minutes. The last time they did it was like 1950-something. So Napoli not scoring a ton of early goals is an understatement.
Not
but
much
they did this
incentive
weekend.
to turn up for kickoff if you're a Napoli fan.
Right?
Like 2 goals in the last 70 years in the first couple of minutes. I think we can turn up 3 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Italians famously run fastidiously on time, so I'm sure they're all in their seats for that one.
It's like in my amateur league where a team will start with 8 players and then about 10 minutes into the game they'll have 14. Napoli do something similar. Like everybody just kind of strolls in, like, oh, did I miss kickoff? Oh, okay, I'll go into midfield then. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So obviously a good game for Napoli here. Milan, they're in 9th. They're 9 points shy of the top 4 at the moment. For Milan fans, Graham, they're having quite a season, and this wasn't the most fun either to watch this one.
For 70 minutes, I thought this was as bad as we have seen from Milan this season. Certainly the first 30 minutes or so, when it went 2-0 so quickly. I think it goes 2-0 after 20 minutes, actually, 19 minutes in. At that point, I thought there was a good chance Napoli were just going to blow them away. Napoli aren't a team who score a lot of goals or haven't scored a lot of goals this season. I thought there was a chance they were going to rack up 4 or 5 in this game. And the defending for that first Napoli goal that you mentioned there, Ryan, is absolutely abysmal. The entire back line is fragmented. Pavlovic, I think it is too deep. Gabbia is too high. It might be the other way around, but they're completely out of sync. And, Politano does well to get in there and finish. It's a nice finish. But Napoli could have got a bus through that Milan defence. And the second goal as well, Napoli, they jump high, it's proactive out of possession, but it's just so careless from Milan about 25 yards out from their goal, and then Billy Gilmour plays. By the way, I'll say my little bit on Billy Gilmour here. That's what I want Billy Gilmour to do more of. He is capable of it. He is one of the best at dictating play deep, and I think him and Lobotka in this game gave Napoli a real foothold in this match over Milan, where Milan just couldn't really get on the ball. João Felix and Christian Pulisic were a non-factor in this match until the two of them come off in the second half. But that moment is what I want to see Billy Gilmour do more of, but Milan gave Napoli the opportunity to do those sort of things.
Graham, a question for you. The color commentator in this one, forgive me for not writing down the name, had this line that I was very much fixated on, and I'd love to hear which one you come down on. He said, this was in the second half, Sergio Conceição had been screaming for genuinely 5 minutes straight at this point, just screaming and screaming and screaming, trying to conduct attacks, trying to make something happen. And the line was, Milan are either unable or unwilling to play as Conceição is requesting. If you had to guess which of those things is it, that they are unable to understand what he is asking of them and therefore cannot do it, or they are unwilling to do it, as in, has he already lost this team?
Why not both?
Well, when you frame it like that, possibly the latter. But I think the big issue for Milan is nobody really knows what Sergio Conceição wants from this team. I think everyone thought this was going to be a return to Pioli ball, where you are attacking open space and almost playing on the counter in a lot of these games. But there were real swathes of this match with Milan where they're actually inside the Napoli half and nobody's got space. I thought that was the biggest issue for Christian Pulisic. He actually had 42, I'm just looking through my notes here. Yeah, he had 42 touches in this game, which isn't terrible. Not a single dribble. One key pass in this game. Not a single shot from Christian Pulisic. That's meant to be your primary difference maker, attacking difference maker in this team. And I think that illustrates how this Milan team, in so many matches they play, nobody has any space. I think part of the problem there is João Felix, and look, this is becoming a bit for me on this show, the João Felix agenda. But my theory on João Felix is you put him on that left side of the attacking front line over Rafael Leão, you congest everything. He wants to come in. I don't think it's a coincidence that all of a sudden, since he's signed, Christian Pulisic is half the player that he was for the first half of the season. Rafael Leão comes on in this game, and look, he has his own faults. but at least he stretches the pitch. He gives a little bit of dynamism. He's a funnel into the final third. And the goal that Milan score in this game to make it 2-1 comes from him linking up with Theo Hernandez. So not only do you get Rafael Leao, you get more out of Theo Hernandez, you get more out of the players in the middle. I think it's Luka Jovic who finishes that chance in the middle. So the balance of Conceição's team in an attacking sense is completely off, and it does kind of feel like he is already in the end game of his very short time as Milan manager. I think they'll make a change in the summer.
I would agree, because I think you've outlined a lot of the attacking issues really well, and you've already mentioned some of the defensive lack of coordination. The second goal, when Kyle Walker just kind of casually jogs back and breaks the offside line, is not ideal organization either. But watching Christian Pulisic in this game, as I tend to do, I was also a little bit sad for him, because it felt like shades of the USMNT in their last international window of no one quite knowing how to attack, but also no one really defending as a unit. And there were two different moments in the first half where I saw him step to his man. His man passes the ball. Pulisic turns and then realizes, oh, there's just no one around me helping me defend. And you can see him do the, definitely there was a curse muttered under his breath as he then sprints another 20 yards to try to help defend. But that was routine for Milan. It was just players sort of realizing, oh, there's a bunch of space I need to go help with. Oh, I need to slide over and defend that guy. He's wide open. It just felt like a whack-a-mole game where basically every single time Milan would have people where they were supposed to be, Napoli would have players wide open elsewhere, and it just kept being Milan having to stretch and try to react and try to make something happen. And that they still almost could have gotten a point here, because they do have the missed penalty later in the second half, and I think this was our second example from the weekend, Bournemouth versus City being the first, of ball don't lie. Because I do think Theo Hernandez, the commentators all said, oh, it's definitely a penalty, it's egregious.
No, he dangles the leg in there.
Thank you. Okay, I thought I was taking crazy pills here, because I did not think Philip Billing really did. I thought he was running in the straight line. I thought he had good position on the ball, and I think Theo Hernandez sticks that left leg out and kind of it's basically like putting a stick between the bicycle spokes and then being shocked that things stop working. So I didn't think it should have been a penalty. I understood why Billing was really frustrated. I don't understand why it didn't go to VAR, but it doesn't end up mattering because it is comfortably saved. Ball don't lie.
It don't indeed. Ruben lost his cheek, by the way. Spare a thought for him. He had a successful appendectomy surgery over the weekend.
Appendectomy don't lie. Also that.
That is true. That's what the doctors say. It's what they teach you in med school, first day. They arrived in Naples, did Milan, and basically he was diagnosed with acute appendicitis. So, had to get it taken care of. Get better soon, RLC.
And get better soon to Mick Sauce, my adult son, who was missing for this game. He woke up with flu in the morning. Antonio Conte talked about this after the game. The quote was something like, it was one of the days that makes you wish you weren't a manager, where I think he had his game plan. He talked about he'd worked on his game plan for 2 or 3 days and he knew exactly what he was going to do. And then McTominay comes out of that team and he has to shift everything on the fly. So the adjustments worked. Like David Neres, I think he said, was the player, he was the late pick. I thought he did well, and Napoli as a whole adjusted well to those changes. But get well soon, McTominay. Want you back.
Get well soon. Usually, of course, when a Scot wakes up in the morning with flu and they miss work, it's because they had a fun night last night rather than... I
don't think Scott McTominay has had a beer in his life going on his Instagram page. He's very much an exception to the rule there as a Scottish person.
You might be right. Quick look around the rest of Serie A. Inter with a 2-1 win over Udinese to stay top. Their fifth straight win in all competitions. Goals from Marco Arnautovic, Fratesi, and 2 lovely assists from Federico Di Marco as well in that game. Fiorentina with a 1-0 win over Atalanta. Moise Kean with a first half solo, steal the ball and run all the way into the half goal, which was very nice. This was a tight Serie A title race a few weeks ago. It's loosening up a bit now. Atalanta are losing ground. They're 9 points behind Inter now with 8 games to go. The other game worth noting, Juventus with their new manager, Igor Tudor, making his debut. A 1-0 win over Genoa. In this one, Kenan Yildiz with a lovely goal after 25 minutes in this one. Graham, my favourite quote from Tudor after this one, who is kind of a Juventus legend, obviously played with them and did very well for them, very much loved in Turin. His quote, "We could have scored another, but it's fine. A 1-0 win is better than a 2-0 win from a mental point of view." Is it?
I don't know if it is. I mean, in that 2-0's famously the most dangerous scoreline in football. I don't know whether that's what he's getting at. Of course, that's complete nonsense. But yeah, this was his first game in charge after replacing Thiago Motta. He was fired over, we haven't talked about that yet on the show, but he was fired over the international break. I still have mixed thoughts on that. Certainly hasn't been a good season for Juve. I still believe Thiago Motta is a quality coach. And so in that sense, I think Tudor is a downgrade, but he made changes for this game. And you're right, Ryan. He's a Juventus icon, so I think Juventus, the board, are just trying to get fans back on side with that appointment. But the most notable change for this match was a new shape. Tudor went for a 3-4-2-1. So you had McKennie and Nico Gonzalez as the wing backs. It was Thuram and Locatelli as a double pivot, and then Yildiz and Koopmeiners in advanced central roles close to Vlahovic as the focal point. It did seem like there was a little bit more intent from Juve. They took more risks with their passes going forward. Yildiz scored, as you say, Ryan, an excellent winner where he beats like 3 players and sticks it in the back of the net. He was generally quite lively, and I think the biggest benefit of this system change is that it gets him, and certainly Koopmeiners, into areas where they can have more of an influence. That was the position that Koopmeiners was playing for Atalanta last season, as a little bit more advanced rather than being deep in the midfield as Motta was playing him. But honestly, like big picture, it was very similar to what we saw from this Juve team under Thiago Motta. They struggled to create good looks in front of goal. Their XG was under 1 in this game. So in that sense, it was just more of the same.
Indeed. Fun times in Turin. We take one more quick break and we come back. Quick look at the Bundesliga and MLS. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. We go to the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich 3, St. Pauli 2. A 6-point lead at the top with 7 games to go for Bayern. Harry Kane on the score sheet here. He's now scored against all other 19 clubs he's faced in the Bundesliga. Congratulations to him, the second best all-time record behind the retired Miroslav Klose. He's also the leading goal scorer in the Bundesliga on 22 goals. What do we say about this one, Graham? St. Pauli had nice kits. I like that brown. Looks good.
I'm afraid I didn't see any of this game, but they do have nice kits, and I like Jackson Irvin, so that is my analysis on this game. Taylor, did you see this one?
Did not, but agree with everything that's been said, including Jackson Irvin.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it was a good game. Good game for Bayern Munich as well. RB Leipzig, they said Auf Wiedersehen to Marco Rosa, as we covered earlier in this here show. After a 1-0 defeat on the road at Gladbach, they dropped to 6th with this one. Gladbach actually leapfrogged over them with this result. So it is, of course, Taylor, I presume, Taylor, it is Jurgen Klopp's job to find a new coach here for the Red Bull organisation.
Where will Jurgen Klopp find a good manager? It's just impossible to think where Jurgen Klopp, one of the best managers of his generation, could turn to as. Yeah.
Are you saying himself, or are you saying his longtime assistant who failed at Salzburg? Which one would you prefer?
The first one, not Pep Linders.
No? Okay.
I just find it a really baffling situation where you have this like top level club and you've got Jurgen Klopp picking the next manager when. I don't know. It's a bit like Max Martin trying to find someone to write a Billboard #1 hit. Like, it's just a bit weird.
Who was his assistant? I hope it wasn't Pep Linders. It wasn't. Who was his assistant at Liverpool who kind of looked like him? Jurgen Klopp.
The Kloppodanger.
Yeah, that's who he needs to hire. It's just like, I'll get somebody in who looks exactly like me, and then I can sort of manage if I need to. I think
like
that's
a stunt
the only
double.
Solution. Yeah,
a stunt manager.
Like Neymar's double. He just goes to parties for him. Very good.
I think it was a stunt double from the Matrix movies who then was the director of the John Wick franchise. So by that comparison, the stunt double could work out and Leipzig could be really successful. Lots of conditionals there because I don't see it happening. Both the hiring and Leipzig being good this season. Instead, it will be Zoltz Low. I don't think he is a relation to Yogi Low, although I think a lot of people...
That's his stunt double.
Were very... Makes sense. A lot of people apparently were very surprised when the headline was Low appointed caretaker manager of Leipzig. I think a lot of people thought it was Yogi. It was not. There are rumors that they will be pursuing Oliver Glasner in the summer. It sounds like Low will be there through the end of the season with an eye towards securing a top 4 finish, ? I am confused about the timing of this sacking from Marco Rosa. So they have the training retreat last month. Where he basically takes the team out. They're going to train, they're going to focus, and they get 1 point off Freiburg. They get a win against Dortmund, so it seems like things are okay. And then they lose this game this weekend, and then he is out. That, to me, says the writing was on the wall. Maybe he had already started to lose that team. Maybe that training retreat, instead of bringing everyone together, just caused more fractures. But either way, it felt like one more bad result, and that was going to be it for Marco Rosa, and that's what happened this weekend. So that was it for Marco Rosa.
It was indeed. All right, one thing left to do on this here weekend review. Let's take a quick look at MLS. Of course, on Tuesday's show, we go deep on Major League Soccer, but a quick overview here, Graham, if you will. Miami top in the East after that 2-1 win A home win over Philly. As we mentioned, Messi on the score sheet in that one, returning to the lineup after, I think he missed out on the international break, didn't he? So he's come back on the bench here.
Yeah, I actually thought Philly played really well in this game. They came into this match in good form, top of the Shield standings, I think. And if you look at the numbers from this match, Philly bettered Inter Miami in pretty much every column in possession and shots and XG. So they maybe feel a bit sore coming out of this game with nothing. But Inter Miami, they have strong Real Madrid vibes. Even when they don't play that well, they have the top-end talent to get a result. It helps, of course, when you can bring Messi off the bench with his new slick-back hair. I don't know if anyone saw that, to score within 2 minutes of him being on the pitch. So yeah, another win for Inter Miami. It feels like we haven't had the full reveal of this team yet in MLS because they're managing minutes. Messi's only started 2 games. They've had injuries. They've got the Champions Cup as well, of course. But they keep moving forward, which is impressive and says something about the depth that they have.
It does indeed. San Diego with a 3-2 win over LAFC. They still doing well. Atlanta, the 4-3 win over NYC FC as well. This one was a nice little thrillergram.
Yeah, and this was close to a must-win game for Atlanta because of the fact that they hadn't won since opening weekend. That was against CF Montreal, so one of the worst teams in the league have just sacked their manager. All that excitement around signings and the money that they spent, it has been a rough start for this team, even if they have shown glimpses like they did in that defeat against Inter Miami a couple of weeks ago. This game was, as the scoreline suggests, really entertaining, but largely because it was absolutely littered with mistakes by both teams. Brooks Lennon in this game gives away, frankly, a hilarious penalty where he just runs into the NYCFC player. Like, he doesn't slow down at any point and just plows all the way through him, gives away the penalty. Matt Freese was glued to his line as well for a couple goals as well. But there were goals from Moranchuk, who this was probably the best that I've seen of Moranchuk for Atlanta United. He was a little bit deeper in a number 8 role for Atlanta in this game. Goals for Latilath, Almiron getting his first goal back as well in his second spell. They brought it back from 3-1 down, they were in this game, Atlanta. So good team spirit there, but man, this Atlanta United team is uneven across the pitch. They have an incredible attack and then a very questionable defence in midfield.
Yes, indeed. LA
So
Galaxy.
Major League Soccer is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Cool.
Essentially.
Cool.
Good vibes, chaos. Love
Heritage.
it.
That's heritage right there. LA Galaxy with the worst start of a campaign of any defending MLS champion ever. Direct quote from Graham Rutham's words on The Guardian, if you want to check that out. And also check out Tuesday's show for more on Major League Soccer as well. Vancouver are top in the West after a 0-0 draw at Toronto. Colorado, doesn't matter. So that's
What
it
happened?
for MLS. Everybody good? Yep.
I watched that game.
Huh?
Yeah.
So did I. Yeah.
I mean, I was mainly watching it, Ryan, because Charlotte, I've been so impressed with them this season. And so I was watching this game to be like, are they the real deal? Because the big question around them is obviously their away form, how good they've been at the bank and then how poor they've been away from home. Yeah, still a question mark after this game. Although they were in it until Georgi Mihailovic makes this change in the second half where he started out in the left wing. He then comes in as a number 10 and made the difference, gets a couple of nice goals, or certainly one nice goal. Second one was a penalty, where he just sort of peels off and finishes for that first one. So, yeah, sorry about the defeat, Ryan. I think Charlotte are still in good shape, even if their away form is still pretty bad.
Indeed. I think they're flying Spirit or something. There's got to be a reason why they're not, unless Spirit are a sponsor, in which case. But yeah,
in which
very
case
much
they're the best.
The muscly meme dog at home, not so much on the road. Thank you very much. That concludes our weekend review. Taylor Rockwell, it's been a pleasure chatting soccer with you, as always, my good friend. Thank you very much.
Right back at you, my friend.
Graham Ruthven, thank you very much. Our pleasure as always.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
Listener, one more time, join us on the feed on Tuesday for more MLS action. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show to support us and get extra episodes as well. We'll be back on this feed very shortly, but for now, bye!